If you've been keeping up with the drama between the LIV League and the PGA Tour, you'll know that there have recently been some interesting developments on that front. From the looks of it, one of the players, Pat Perez, who decided to join the Saudi-backed league, has backed away from an antitrust lawsuit he had filed against PGA along with some other players. In today's video, we'll tell you all that went down recently. First up, let's take a look at what's going on. Both the LIV and the PGA have been pretty occupied recently as their legal battle to dominate the sport has finally begun, and recent developments in the case have proved that it's going to be anything but boring. Pat Perez has joined the small but somewhat growing list of people who've dropped out of the antitrust lawsuit filed against the PGA Tours. Well, it should be noted that there's currently only one other person on that list, but hey, at least there's some good news for the tour. The three-time tour winner, as you might recall, was one of the OG 11 players that had filed a lawsuit against PGA after they were suspended for joining LIV. Yep, it's the same crowd, including Phil Mickelson and company, who claimed that their careers had basically been jeopardized due to the American Tour's indefinite suspensions. According to them, this was the very purpose of all the suspensions. Okay, but that seems a little over the top, and to be very honest, this kind of reaction should have been expected by them. And, as you might even remember, the suspensions were in fact handed out after these players decided to join LIV in search of more lucrative opportunities. It should be noted that Perez has followed Carlos Ortiz, who just recently dropped out of the lawsuit last week. Now, what's really going on with the suit? If you're all caught up on the legal wranglings that are currently going on between the two parties and don't understand where they're at right now, well, we've got you covered. The antitrust lawsuit against the tour was filed earlier this month by 11 players who previously played with PGA. This came after they were banned from participating in any of the tour's events, so naturally, this got them all worked up. Some of the golfers involved also tried to get a temporary restraining order so that they'll be able to compete in the upcoming FedExCup playoffs. According to them, they should be allowed to participate since their qualification took place long before joining LIV. PGA and a federal judge in California were happy to let them know that this really isn't how things work. But what did Perez say? Well, the player seems to have finally gotten the time to think about things. In his own words, "I didn't really think it through." Now, we don't know what sort of impression this will be leaving on PGA or even the 9 other players who are still very much in this lawsuit. But let's see what else he's got to say. The 46-year-old apparently did it to, quote, back his guys, and he had no intention to go after the PGA Tour in any shape or form. We wonder what happened to back the other players up, but more importantly, this begs the question if the lawsuit was even a well-thought-out plan. Because with 2 of the soldiers down, it's beginning to look more and more like a spur-of-the-moment decision. Moving on, Perez has no ill feelings towards the tour. Perez, in his interview with Sports Illustrated, made sure to mention the fact that he doesn't hold any ill feelings towards the tour or any of the players. We're certain that isn't true for PGA, but maybe it's too soon to burst Perez's bubble. Apart from this, the 3-time tour winner doesn't really have any intention to come back. Or maybe he really is doing all of this because he feels bad for his prior actions. It doesn't really matter to him if PGA has closed their doors for him. He's still a LIV guy 100%. And finally, Perez seemed pretty grateful for the time he spent with the tour. Even though he's moved on in a rather different direction, the golfer doesn't really want any bad blood to remain between him and his previous tour. Towards the end of his interview, the golfer acknowledged the fact that this time spent with the PGA was pretty good. He stated that they gave him a, quote, wonderful opportunity for 21 years. Perez doesn't want to hold anything against them, so perhaps it's safe to say that he's finally over his suspension. He also declared that it was, after all, his choice to leave and join LIV. But here's the thing, he still wants to come back and one day maybe participate in the Champions Tour. It's solely because of this reason he's not yet ready to give up his membership. The golfer also went on to state that originally he had wanted to play the playoffs, but that seems like a no-go for him with the present situation between LIV and the PGA Tour. We wonder if this move will make things any easier for the American Tour. Perez is perfectly content with his unbelievable deal with the Saudis, and maybe the entire sports washing agenda doesn't really bother him that much. Ortiz and Perez shared a rather similar sentiment when it comes to dropping the case. This just makes us wonder if the other players will follow. Maybe pretty soon it'll just be Phil Mickelson fighting the PGA, but that's still pretty far in the future, so we can't make an assumption right now. That's all we have for Perez and his dropped lawsuit against PGA Tour. Now let's catch you up with what else has been going on between the PGA and LIV. Here's some other news items we think you might find interesting. First up, the PGA is ready to throw in more money to get their players to stay. The battle between the two golf organizations is currently neck to neck. Both are very well aware of what steps they must take to dominate the sport. Now, we all know that LIV largely relies on heavy purses to get good players. In fact, this particular point has been the main point of criticism against these players because, well, you know, going after the money makes them a sellout and insincere towards the sport. But looks like PGA now has a new strategy to deal with this problem. They're going to throw money at it by increasing the players' salaries. That definitely seems rather contradictory, but it's about time that the American Tour realized the key role money has to play. So, moving on, we can expect PGA to let its top-tier players compete in more events, and they'll also be doubling the bonus pool for the players that seem to resonate with the fans. By that, they obviously mean their top-tier players. This entire gesture is probably code for stay away from LIV. Of course, we must talk figures. With these new regulations, the golfers who participate in a minimum of 15 events are guaranteed to receive up to $500,000 in their annual salary. For their top players, however, the bonus pool has been increased to $100 million. We wonder if there'll be any response from LIV. It'll be rather interesting to see. Next up, the Avengers of PGA assembled to see what should be done. PGA is getting its top players together to fight the Saudi-backed threat to their tour, and this time, they're definitely not playing around. A gathering of the top 23 PGA Tour players got together recently under the leadership of Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy last week in an emergency meeting. Reports claim that this meeting lasted for almost 4 hours. Yikes. We wonder what they were discussing in there for so long. Unfortunately, it seems like the attendees aren't yet ready to reveal much of the information about this gathering, but some have come out to say that it was a good meeting. Well, we'll just have to take their word for it. The players in attendance included Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Jon Rahm, and Will Zalatoris. Experts believe that this meeting might just end up shaping the future of the PGA. And not much has been revealed about this meeting, but sources have mentioned that the players discussed ways they can keep their peers from moving towards LIV. One of the possible solutions apparently is offering rewards. And finally, lawyers for PGA have demanded to see LIV Golf's contracts. The legal squabble between LIV and PGA has officially begun now that the schedule for the Antitrust lawsuit against the American Tour has finally been released. The attorney for the PGA Tour recently filed a motion stating that the contracts signed by the players should be released as there's no proper reason why this information is sealed. From the looks of it, PGA is aiming for the jugular. The motion also talked about how PGA hasn't concealed their contracts, so there's no reason why the league should be doing that. We just can't wait to see how things turn out with this trial. That's a wrap for this video, guys. Why do you think Perez stepped back from the lawsuit? Do you think others will do the same? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more awesome videos like this.